Hey everybody, this is Neil, back with some more boot camp. After a few distractions, let's see if we can polish off the two-hit tutorials that I have been working on. This is, I believe, lesson 4 of the 5-part two-hit process. Lesson 3, I've previously covered the two-hit process and two-kill process versus vehicles, so let's just, I'm not going to cover that in this tutorial. Let's just remove the stug and focus on what we have on the board. And this tutorial is going to focus on how do you resolve attacks. Let me remove this smoke as well. How do you resolve attacks versus infantry and guns, which is actually much more simple than attacking a vehicle, especially a moving vehicle, which I really didn't cover, but we will cover in the gameplay example I do after lesson 5. I'll actually play a scenario where all of this ties together. So in this lesson, I'm going to cover how to resolve area target type attacks versus guns and infantry target type attacks as well. And you can see here I have the same setup that I have been using, and I just removed the stug and the smoke. We have some Germans and some Americans and various guns and support weapons. 2 guns specifically. Remember, 5/8" counters are considered guns. 1/2" counters are considered support weapons, even though they use the two-hit process. So I'm going to briefly go over what type of target type each of these various support weapons and guns could choose when firing at the enemy units on the board. Let's go through them one by one very quickly. This 57L can fire HE. It has limited ammo HE. Let's just assume it has HE for every shot. It can see these 2 units, and it could choose either area target type or infantry target type. The trade-off is, as you remember from the previous lesson, is easier to hit with area target type, but the results, less of a chance of a result because the firepower is basically halved. Conversely, harder to hit using infantry target type, but you're hitting with full firepower if you do secure a hit. And the difference between that is area target type. Imagine that the anti-tank gun is basically firing blindly into the hex, possibly multiple shots, just kind of blanketing the hex with fire. May not really be getting close to the squad in this case, but may get a stray shell that gets close or hits it and gets an effect. Infantry target type, you're directly trying to target the unit in that location, in this case a squad, and doing that is harder to do, harder to hit, but has a much better effect. Okay, so this gun could choose to fire area target type or infantry target type on either of these, and they're both at range. This one's at range 5. This one's at range 6. And then let's go over here. This mortar has 2 targets. It's a mortar, therefore it's forced to use area target type. It cannot use infantry target type. Same with the reverse. Anti-tank gun can see these 2 locations. There's 2 locations in here. I'm just going to do this. So ground level and level 1. It could choose to fire infantry target type at one or the other location, or it could choose to fire area target type and affect both locations, but the bottom floor would get a additional modifier, TEM modifier, of I believe +1, in addition to the +2 for being a wood building. The unit could be in the bottom floor unit. The ground floor could be in wall advantage. I don't have it marked here, so let's assume he's not. But he could be in wall advantage to this wall, which case it would be a +2 TEM modifier and not a +3 because he would be considered not in the building and wouldn't get the extra TEM of having a floor above it if the gun fired on them using area target type. Um, it could fire over here. It would have to change its covered arc, and I believe it's in woods. That would be a large modifier. If you fired infantry target type over here with that type of modifier of rotating, changing covered arc in the woods, probably doesn't have a prayer at all of hitting. Even with area target type, it's probably going to be slim, so he's probably not even going to rotate. He's just going to fire at these guys. And again, this mortar, German mortar, has no choice. It must fire area target type at either these guys in the woods or this gun in the woods. And they're resolved somewhat differently. They use the infantry fire table, but you can get, when the gun is a target, you can have auxiliary results. You can destroy the gun, or you can malfunction the gun in addition to having an effect on the infantry. Now let's do the American side first. Let's assume the gun has HE, can fire HE. And he's going to choose, he can fire here or here. The mortar's probably more of a threat because I'm in woods. He's going to fire at me. He's going to get an air burst gyro modifier either here or here. So I think I want to take out the mortar. It's a range of 5. Now, do I want to use area target type or infantry target type? Let me pop up the 2-hit chart right up here somewhere, and let's take a look. So at a range of 5, let's assume the Americans are using, it's a late war, so the Americans are using the black 2-hit numbers. It's the same at this range. It's 8 or 8. Early war Americans had to use a red 2-hit number, but here it doesn't really matter. We're at close range. So infantry target type, I need an 8 to hit. Area target type, I need a 7. There are no other modifiers for type of barrel or range modifiers or moving or anything like that. Pretty simple. But there is a +1 modifier if I choose to do infantry target type, +1 for being in woods. Remember, TEM can never be applied to both the 2-hit and the results. It's one or the other. It's never both. So when you use infantry target type, you have to add the TEM modifier to the 2-hit die roll. When you use area target type, you apply the TEM to the results die roll on the infantry fire table. So you can see how area target type can be, there's a huge penalty there. The only bonus to it is you can hit multiple locations in the hex. So if I were to fire this on area target type, 57 millimeter, let me look at my chart, it's probably 57 millimeter is 6 firepower. Area target type, that gets reduced to 3 firepower. It's half. So that goes down to 2 on the chart, and then I'd have to add 1 to the infantry fire table die roll. It'd be a 2+1 shot. Conversely, if I fired infantry target type, I would have to add 1 to the 2-hit die roll, but it would be full firepower, so it'd be a 6 with no modifier. It'd be a 6 even if I hit. And if you look at this range, the chance to hit is an 8 on infantry target type, 7 on area target type. But if you include the +1 for the woods on the 2-hit for the infantry target type, they essentially both need a 7 to hit. So there's absolutely no reason whatsoever for them to fire area target type over here. They're going to fire infantry target type in this case, just by doing a little math up front. Now let's make a roll and see what happens. Rolled a 5. That is a hit. The red number is actually less than the rate of fire. I could fire again. So we got a hit. And once we've got a hit, we go to the resolution. Like I said, it goes to the infantry fire table. 57L, 57 millimeter. It was 6 on the infantry fire table, the 6 column. And since we use infantry target type, there is no reduction in the firepower. It is full firepower, and there is no terrain effect modifier because we use the TEM during the 2-hit die roll. We actually, 5 + 1 is a 6. We needed an 8, so we got a hit. Let's roll the resolution. Rolled a 8. on a 6. That is a pin check on them. Let's go ahead and roll. And they passed. Now I can fire again with a, do I have an acquisition? I do. They are now acquired. Now it's even easier to hit, a little bit easier. Base of 8 to hit, infantry target type. +1 die roll modifier to the 2 hit for the woods, -1 for acquisition. So I need an 8 essentially. The acquisition and the woods die roll modifiers cancel each other. Let's roll again. Got another hit, got rate of fire. Flip the acquisition over. They're acquired twice. That's the most you can be acquired. Let's roll the resolution. 6 even on the infantry fire table. Fire an HE. Got an 8. Got another pin check. Let's roll the pin check. Whoa. They're going to pass because I rolled 2. They passed with flying colors. Let's roll again for a 2 hit. See how long we can go. Oh, no hit. Okay, we're done. So this is prep fire. So we did get got a rogue German there flying around. So we got 2 hits on there. Got 2 pin checks with no result because this elite unit has decent morale. And we ran out of rate of fire. Now I could choose to intensify, but I'm not going to. Let's move over to this M2 mortar. He has a target-rich environment. He has the gun over here, the squad in the woods, and the mortar in the woods here. And all of the German units are in woods, so the mortar is going to get an airburst effect. So I think I will choose, let's look at range here. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is going to be easiest to hit. Remember, mortar, support weapons and guns, the full 5/8 inch mortars, they must all use area target type. They cannot use infantry target type, which makes sense. They're lobbing shells up in the air in these huge arcs. They don't have a lot of accuracy, and they're kind of peppering, the area of the hex, hoping to do some damage. Thus, their firepower is halved. But when you get at longer range, it's a little bit easier to hit compared to a long range infantry target type. Let's see. I'm gonna shoot at. I think I'm gonna shoot back at the mortar again. I don't like air burst, high rate of fire mortar. He could pound on these guys. These guys here are probably relatively safe. That's famous last words from this AT gun firing HE. I'm going to fire over here, so let's check the range. It's clear. It's right up the hex row. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I'm going to pop up the 2 hit chart up here again. We're at a range of 9. And you can see we've moved the next column over. We're in the 7 to 12 range. But for area target type, the 2 hit number is still the same. It's a 7. And if we look down at the gun and ammo modifiers, there's none for range, and I'm not firing smoke. I'm just firing HE from this mortar, which is all it can fire, obviously. So I need a 7 to hit. I do not add the TEM. Remember, TEM is for area fire is applied to the results die roll. For infantry target type, like I did before, it's added to the 2 hit die roll. You can't do both. Area, if you remember the chart from the last lesson, TEM to result for area target type, TEM to 2 hit for infantry target type. Okay, never both. So let me fire. It's a range of 9. Need a 7, a base 7, no modifiers. Have the firepower, and I'll add 1 to the die roll. Let me change that. It's an air burst. Mortars firing at units in woods, instead of a +1, it's actually a -1 modifier, not a +1 in this case. So almost forgot that. So let's fire. We need a 7 to hit. And we got a hit and rate of fire. So it's going to be, was it 60 millimeter? Got my chart here. That goes up to 8 firepower. So it's halved for area, goes down to 4, but there's going to be a -1 because it's an air burst terrain in the woods. So 4 -1. And we got a 6 on a 4, which is a morale check. Whoa. Okay, I'm just going to flip them over. because I don't have any counters out to do any ELR or casualty reduction activities. So he's broke, but he still has rate of fire. He could fire here or here now. There's no covered arc. There's no penalty for firing. You can fire in any direction with mortars. So let's fire over here. Put up the 2-hit table. We're in the range of 0 to 6. Still needs a 7 to hit. Airburst situation here as well. So let's roll. Need a 7. We got a hit and we got a rate of fire. Again, it's going to be a 4 firepower. Base is 8 for 60 millimeter. Halved her area for firepower. -1 for airburst. And we got a 5. Sorry, a 3 on a 4. That's a 2 morale check. They broke miserably. But still have rate of fire. Okay, let's fire over here. This gun. It's probably a range of 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Doesn't matter. Same. Need a 7 to hit. They're in woods. Basically, you just repeat, rinse and repeat. Here, still have rate of fire, but I missed. But I can fire again. I'm going to move this acquisition over here because he fired once, missed on the first shot, but got rate of fire. So now I need an 8 to hit. And just hit, but I lost rate of fire. But you can flip acquisition over for next turn. Let's roll the firepower. 4 -1. They are in a woods. They are in woods, but let's assume the gun's in placed, which is a +2. So it's going to be a 4 +1. And that's no result. And they're marked, say, with the prep fire or defensive final fire, whatever phase they may be in. Okay, that's it from the American side. I'm going to reset this, and we'll just do the Germans, and it'll kind of just be the inverse with some more examples. Be back in a jiff. All right, I've reset the board. Let's do the Germans. They have the same situation here. Mortar can only fire area. Anti-tank gun has a choice. Let's start with the mortar. As you can see, mortars can be a pain in the butt. So he's going to fire, because everything is in woods in this example, he's going to fire down at this mortar down here as well. So I need, if you remember from the 2-hit chart, base is 7, and there'll be a -1 for an airburst. 7 base to hit and a -1 for airburst. You got a hit. Do I have an acquisition? German acquisition? I do. Just put that there. This is a smaller mortar. This is 50 millimeter. So 50 is full firepower is 6. That gets cut in half to 3, similar to the 57L, which goes down to the 2 column, but it's going to be a 2 firepower -1 for airburst in the woods. 2 -1. That's a 5 on a 2. That is a morale check. Soft Americans here, 6 morale. And I believe I got rate of fire, and they broke. They broke. Okay. Now they're broke. They should be marked DM. Same with the Germans earlier. They're going to fire down here at the gun, area target type. And there is a size modifier on the gun here. It's a small target, the white background on the manhandling number. And they didn't hit anyway, so it would have been an extra +1 for the size. So they missed, but they got rate of fire. So let's move the acquisition over there because they fired on them. They need a +1 for acquisition. Sorry, -1 for acquisition, +1 for size. So they need a base of 7. They basically cancel, and they nearly broke their mortar. But let's flip this over to -2 for next turn, hypothetically, and mark these guys prep fire that they fired. Let's move over to the anti-tank gun. Here we have choices. Two choices. We can fire uh, over here. We'd have to change covered arc. I'm not making that choice because I'll never hit. I'm going to fire over here, but I'm going to do two examples. I'm going to do area target type, which will affect the whole hex, and then I'll do infantry target type on either either the ground level or the level 1 squad. So let's do the area target type first. 1, 2, 3, range of 4. Look at our 2-hit chart. I better put it up over here so I don't cover these guys up. We need a range of 4. We need a 7 to hit. And I said area target type. Yeah, so we need a base of a base 7. There's no other modifiers, and they're in a building, so that the TEM will be applied to the resolution die roll. So we need a 7 to hit. Area target type. Rate of fire of 2. Ooh, critical hit. Interesting that pops up, because now I can speak to it. So I got a critical hit using area target type. Normally you would have the firepower during the resolution, and a 75 millimeter, the base is a 12 firepower column. So that would normally go down to 6. But what you do when you get a critical hit is you double that. So, but you don't double it after you have it. You double it from its base, which is 75, which is 12 firepower. It goes up to 24 firepower, and you reverse the terrain effect modifier that the units are in. So it would be a 24 firepower minus 2 against one of these units. In full ASL, when you get a critical hit, it's random selection. So let's say the level 1 squad is the red die and the bottom squad is the white die. If I happen to roll doubles, then they both are selected. I think I said red was top. So these guys got critically hit. These guys are just a normal hit. So these guys are going to get hit with a 24 minus 2. These guys are going to get hit with a normal area target type hit, which is going to be 12 halved down to 6 plus 2. Actually plus 3 because they're in a lower level, right? They're getting a little bit more protection. So 24 minus 2, 6 plus 3. Nothing's going to happen to these guys. With one, and you just roll one die. Let's see what we get. I didn't notice if I got rate of fire. 20. Let's do the 24 first. Minus 2, I said. So a 6 on a 24 is a 4 morale check, and the bottom guy is a 6 plus 2 to the die roll. It's going to be a 10 on a 6, which is a nothing. So these guys need to take a 4 MC, and they're not going to pass. They did not pass. And they got rate of fire. So let's just, do I have an acquisition? I do. I'll just move this one over. -1, oops, wrong size. -1. So since we got rate of fire, let's just, and I broke this guy up here. This is actually a pretty good example. It worked out pretty good. And I broke this guy over here. Let's switch to infantry target type and just shoot at the guy on the bottom floor. But we have acquisition. And there's a rule called bracketing, meaning for acquisition, meaning you can switch the target type in between shots and switch to infantry target type and maintain your acquisition. So I'm going to fire at the bottom, but infantry target type at this range, it's actually a little bit easier to hit base-wise. It's an 8 if you look up here, but we're going to have to add +2 for the wood building. Then we subtract 1 for the acquisition. So base of 8, and then a +1 to the die roll, and so we need a 7 to hit essentially. Same as what we'd need if we fired area. So we're just firing at the bottom unit in that building. We need a 7. And we broke the gun. Lots of stuff going on here. Yeah, rolled a 12. And they missed, broke the gun. Acquisition is gone because of that. And the top squad is broken and under desperation morale, and the gun is broken. Okay. That's it for area target type, resolving area target type and infantry target type, and how to carry out the attacks. If you want to see vehicle target type, check a couple videos back. I went over the two hit processes versus vehicles and the two kill process versus vehicles, which is resolved on the two kill table. All the resolution here is done on the infantry target type. One more thing to note when shooting at guns. There's a thing called guns as targets, and essentially, in a nutshell, when you fire at a gun, if you get a critical hit, the gun is automatically destroyed along with the crew. If you get a K result, like a K/2, the gun is malfunctioned and the squad still needs to take a +2 morale check like normal. If you just get a morale check result when you fire guns at another gun, the squad just needs to take a morale check, whatever that morale check may be. Now, remember, most guns, unless you've towed them somewhere and put them in place, if they start in a hex and they haven't moved out of the hex, they're considered in place, and there's a +2 modifier on either the 2-hit or the resolution, depending on what type of area target type you use. So remember, if you get a critical hit on a gun, it's destroyed. If you get a casualty result like a K/2, it's malfunctioned, and the squad is always subject to the firepower that hits it, plus or minus the TEM involved, whether it's a gun shield, emplacement, or other terrain in the hex. You can't take both. You can't be emplaced in a building and take both the building TEM and the emplacement TEM. It's one or the other. Okay. I think that, so the next video I'm going to do, I think I'm going to do it on Vassal instead of using real counters, because I'm going to go through a bunch of examples of the 2-hit and resolution process using vehicles and guns and different types of targets, mainly because coming up with examples is kind of hard, and they all have to take place on one board if I do a physical setup like this. What I can do is, I think I did it on some other example video I did a while back. I just pull up old log files and I step through it, and I find a point where we're having tank on tank combat or tanks firing at stuff in buildings. And I can just speak to the log file at that point as I just step through it and give you the examples of exactly what's happening and how it was resolved. So that's going to be part 5, and that's going to be the last part of the 2-hit, 2-kill resolution process. And then after that, like I said, I'm going to actually play a scenario and show you how all of this works, including infantry movement and fire. Be a refresher, but mainly 2-hit, 2-kill, small amount of vehicles and guns, and hopefully I can find a scenario that fits in my little viewing area here so I can use physical components. So thanks for watching. Please give a thumbs up and a follow. I'd really appreciate it, and I'll see you in lesson 5 of the 2-hit, 2-kill resolution boot camp. See you later.